Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, once again a warm welcome to the Tourism Students Festival 2020, organized by New Tourism Foundation, the first ever initiative at the national level to focus on education sector on tourism, bringing students in academia into an interface with the industry and the government, with a view to prepare for the challenges for the new normal. And on behalf of New Tourism Foundation, I extend a warm welcome to all our eminent panel members of this session. So ladies and gentlemen, the topic for the session is Academia Industry Partnerships for New Tourism Education. Academia and industry are two important pillars of our economy. A robust collaboration between the two will augur well for our developing economy, enabling innovation, growth in the education system, and producing an employment-ready workforce. Entrepreneurs and educational institutes need to recognize this opportunity and build a constructive framework for collaboration to make India a global innovation hub. And to begin with the proceedings of this session, we introduce our distinguished panelists. Our eminent panelist, Dr. Danish Iqbal Raina, with PhD in Customer Relationship Management, has more than 12 years of experience in teaching and administration. Areas of specialization is customer relationship management and organizational behavior. A passionate researcher in the field customer relationship management, has been actively involved in the corporate life of the university. Presently, he is the media advisor of the university, heading the public relations and media affairs. Our eminent panelist, Mr. Prateek Hira, is the founder, president, and CEO of Tornos, an exponential travel company, and provides itself in being micro-destination management company operating since 1994 and catering in specific geographic areas and offering knowledge-based products. He is also the chapter chairman of IATO, Indian Association of Tour Operators for the states Uttar Pradesh and Uttarakhand. Our next eminent speaker for this session, Mr. Sandeep Mukherjee, is Director of Hospitality, Techno India Group, and Sister Nivedita University, Kolkata. He is ex-Director Operations, Taj Luxury Hotels and Palaces. He is a distinguished hotelier of over 4 decades with international managerial experience and is academically proficient, having a focus on creating hospitality professionals of the future. Our eminent speaker, Mr. Venkateshan Dattarayan, is Regional Director, West and Central Region, India Tourism Mumbai at Incredible India, Ministry of Tourism India, New Delhi. Our eminent panelist, Mr. Ram Kumar Vijayan, is an Events Industry Council Certified Meeting Planner CMP with more than 20 years operational experience in the tourism industry in the fields of tourism marketing, product development, and events. He has been part of the team that conceptualized and implemented the Incredible India campaign, and among other things, has extensive experience in marketing of India tourism in Europe, including in key markets of Germany, Eastern Europe, Russia, Benelux, and the Nordics. After 20 years in the government, he is presently based in Singapore and working as an independent consultant in the field of destination marketing and MICE, as well as heading the Singapore and ASEAN operations for an international PCO and association management company. Our eminent panelist for this session, Professor Sheba Hamid, is Coordinator, Master of Tourism and Travel Management, Department of Commerce, Aligarh Muslim University. She is also a counselor for tourism programs at IGNOU. Besides this, she leads an active corporate and social life and is a keen traveler, connoisseur of literature, culture, art, cuisine, and costumes. And our next eminent panelist, Mr. Vineet Mahindru, is Chief Operating Officer, Leisure Travel Corporation of India, Sita Distant Frontiers, and TCI. And our next panelist, Ms. Alicia Fernandez, is a travel professional, passed out from Thomas Cook Center of Learning and presently working in MICE Product Research Department of a global travel company. And ladies and gentlemen, our distinguished moderator for this session, Miss Loveleen Arun, has had a diversified experience in the hotel and travel industry. She started her career with the Taj Group of Hotels, which was followed by 3 years tenure at the Imperial in New Delhi, and finally she moved to Bangalore with Cox and Kings, where she was area manager for South India. She co-founded Panache in 2001. She has diligently reinvented herself over the years to remain relevant in the very fast-changing travel industry. Her strong points are immensely intimate and first-hand destination knowledge and long-term bonds and relationships with industry colleagues around the world. She travels frequently and keeps herself up to date with the latest trend in the global luxury travel industry by attending the major cutting-edge events. Recognized by several global networks like Traveler Mate, she is one of the premier luxury travel advisor in India today. And ladies and gentlemen, may I now hand over to our distinguished moderator, Ms. Loveleen Arun, to kindly carry forward the proceedings of this session. Over to you, ma'am.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Tourism Students Festival. I am very, very honored. I am extremely happy and I'm extremely grateful to be moderating one of the sessions that is on a subject that is extremely close to my heart. I have been in the travel and hospitality industry for over 25 years. And I have always felt an urgent and a deep need to mentor people to come into this industry and stick around with it. I have tried to find out the reasons why we have a lot of talent that leaves our industry. I love young people who follow this industry with a passion. I like to know what ticks them. I love to hear the challenges of on the industry side, why we are not able to get good people and to keep them. And therefore, when the new Tourism Foundation came and they said, listen, we are planning to have this festival. And in one of the discussions, the topic is that we want to bring together the academia as well as the industry leaders on to discuss how, where is this problem and how can we all work together to make good career paths for students. I really jumped at the idea. I have been extremely happy to put together my panelists, to get them all together, share some thoughts already before this session on how we can make this session extremely useful for you, on both sides, on the student side, on the academia side, on the industry side. We all work in our little small worlds, but all of us really need each other like never before, especially given the COVID situation. And we are very lucky to also have the very important fourth pillar, which is the government. Venkateshan is here from the Government of India Tourism Office. And it is always interesting to have a viewpoint from everyone because that gives us, sometimes we all have our own thoughts and we don't even know what the other person brings to the table. So I'm extremely happy to have like a very varied panel today. You've heard the names of all the people who are here, and I for one am extremely excited to talk to all of them, and I hope you people will follow this debate through and this discussion through to see where it takes us, and we hope to come up with some nice ideas, some nice solutions. So stick around, and all of us will be available on our, we are all on social media. We are all, our contacts will probably be given by the New Tourism Foundation to you guys. Feel free to reach out if you have good ideas. And let's start this debate now and this discussion. My very first question is to Vineet Mahindru, who is from one of the most premium domestic tourism companies in India, Sita. Vineet, you and I have worked together a long time back, and we know each other and we know all the challenges that have been faced by our industry, especially to get good talent. In your mind, now we're talking from the industry's viewpoint. What is the general perception, do you think, that the industry has today of a fresh graduate who's coming out of a tourism college, who's done 3 years of studies? What is it that you feel about them, about their abilities, about their capabilities? What do you think they speak or talk or hear? And when you're interviewing them for a job in your company, what are your thoughts about that?
So first of all, Loveleen, thank you for having me on this panel, and thank you TSF for organizing it. I think it's a very good initiative, and it's a pleasure to be here. And also, Loveleen has mentioned, as ex-colleague, it's always good to interact and share some thoughts. But to answer your question, Loveleen, I think there are two parts that I would like to address. One is when the students are coming out, how well prepared are they coming out? What kind of 3-year course have they gone through? That's one very important factor when we are looking at a person to be hired. And the second is, what attributes is he bringing on to the table? So let me just address the first part. You know, I passed out of a tourism course some 20 years ago, 21 years ago. The unfortunate part is that the syllabus that we studied, and I don't know if it was updated even at that time, but it's more or less the same syllabus that is being taught today, which, you know, in an industry as dynamic as ours, it's as outdated as it can get. And the second part is that it's a very generic education that's provided in the tourism industry. One of the challenging part about it, our industry, compared to any other industry outside travel specifically, is that there is no clear delineation or, you know, demarcation of what comprises of a particular job role, what skills are required, what kind of study should a person have done before he comes in. To the extent that, you know, even when they are coming out, the student is kind of lost what he studied. He's not aware whether which stream is he really working on, whether it's going to be inbound, is it going to be domestic, it is going to be outbound, are they looking for ticketing, and what does it entail to get into one of these sub-segments of our travel business. You know, if I compare it to just about any other industry, think about this as engineering. Your student is passing out from an engineering college, and he's been taught a little bit of civil, a little bit of mechanical, a little bit of electronics, and then he's thrown into the market and said, go and find a job. Now imagine the company hiring an engineer which knows a little bit of everything, but nothing of anything actually. And that's the dilemma when we go into to hiring the students. I mean, even in a hotel industry, look at it, the closer to us. Somebody who's passing out of a hotel management 3-year course at least has something to specialize in, whether it's a kitchen, whether it is a front office, whether it is housekeeping, there is some amount of specialization. But unfortunately, in our case, we are facing students who are so generic in nature. And that's, I think, one point which is always at the back of our mind as to who do we really go and hire, and from where do we really go and hire. So when we go out and look at these students, we actually forget about the skills. We are not looking at what skills are they coming in with. We rather look at the potential for them to learn and their attitude. I think that's where we stop. The skills that they are bringing in onto the table more or less become meaningless, and it's only a qualifying criteria to say, this is what you have come with as an educational background. And that is one of the bigger challenges, because that stops differentiating between a master's in a tourism management, a bachelor in a tourism management, or a bachelor in commerce. It makes really no difference, because if they have potential to learn, then any stream is as good or bad. And that, I think, is a academia and an industry challenge today.
Correct. And because you've brought that up, I think the next question I have to put up to one of the better academia's representative that we have today. Sheba Hamid is here from the Aligarh Muslim University with a very vast experience of not only teaching tourism, but also setting syllabus, etc. And so Shiva, what I wanted to ask you is that you've heard Vineet, and I actually, most of us in the travel industry echo what he is saying and what he's feeling. And I'm sure that since you have worked along with the industry and I'm sure in your long career, you've also interacted with the industry people. So it is not that, you wouldn't know that this challenge exists. So having known this, or if you already know this, then what are your challenges, or why is that little change not happening from the academia side to bridge this gap?
Lovely. I will not even deny one point which was raised by Mr. Vineet, because you just said that I have been associated with industry and academia both. So I will bring together both the aspects right now. But let me begin by saying that I will not deny even one point which has been raised by Vineet. He's absolutely talking the truth. This is what happens. We will teach them for 2 years, maybe let us say in a master's program, a syllabus which is, given by the university, where we do not have practical inputs from the industry experts. Whereas there is another debate which is there, which we discussed yesterday also over telephone, is that universities feel that, they have to facilitate learning and they are not skill centers. So there is this lack of willingness on the part of universities to integrate the viewpoints of the industry experts, because universities feel that they have much more to do than just skilling the boys and girls and becoming production houses for the industry. But slowly this kind of a mindset is weeding out, because universities have to go in for credit systems also. They have to get accredited by national accreditation committee and all, and placements and all, and the skilling of the students as per the industry they have to join. All these fetches points. So slowly the mindset of the universities is changing and will change for as per the needs of the industry. But this kind of a debate is going to be forever there, because universities are basically research oriented and they feel that they have to facilitate minds towards learning processes. So there is always the fear of being overpowered, that this kind of a system has to be evolved where, a very practical and correct mix of both the, organizations and the institutions have to be, evolved. So what I suggest is that, more friendship is required between industry and academia. We have to shake more friendly hands together. Universities have the system of calling for guest lectures, having people over for conferences even to deliver certain sessions. But I do not find a correct mix, whether it is the organization of conferences, whether it is about developing syllabi, there is a correct mix is still missing. And that is where the problem occurs. So what please mind my words when I say that a lot of, friendship has to be done between, has to come between industry and academia. And the fear of being overpowered by one another has to be done away with. And that can only happen through good handshakes. Now, what happens is that universities are governed by their own rules and regulations, which is given by the Ministry of Education. So let us say if there a master's course in management, let us say, all master's courses will be governed by certain guidelines. It does not matter whether you are giving financial management. It does not matter whether you are, giving tourism management. But see, our industry has different set of demands altogether. We are a people's industry. We are an industry that demands a totally different skill sets. So what I feel is that, because I'm in a university which has almost every course that you can name, so I see that where lies the problem. We are particularly stricken by these problems. I mean, the tourism industry. And tourism education is at a very nascent stage in India, education and research both. So just by merely organizing conferences and all, it's not going to work out. And let me tell you that in 2017 and again in 2019, I also took financial support, financial aid from the Ministry of Tourism, organized conferences. And at the end of it, while preparing the conference reports, I even put it in my suggestions and in the, suggested action points to the ministry, that whatever funding they are giving to the central universities, they should make it a point that it should be mandatory for them to partner with any organization like IATO, like TIE, depending on their topic, depending on the topic of the seminar or conference that they have chosen. So that is going to work wonders. That is going to bring out very important thoughts and maybe action points also for the academia and for the industry both.
I agree with what you're saying. Yeah. And Danish, I wanted to ask you the same question as what Shiba said. Do you also feel the same about, is there like a lack of friendship or lack of understanding or lack of working together between the industries? Or do you think you've been able to bridge the gap in your university?
Lovelin, we have to look it from a different perspective. See, what is happening in India at least, that industry and academia are acting like north and south pole. We do not find any interaction between academia and industry, as it should have been done to find a midway where we can produce a workforce which is equally competent for the corporate. Now, what is happening that the academia is static and the industry is highly dynamic. The type of research that we do doesn't find any application in the industry. The type of exposure that we should give our students, they are not getting. And then at the same time, the industry is not coming out to support the education institutions for several initiatives, which are very important. See, you just cannot blame the education system that is not competent enough to produce a world-class workforce. At the same time, the industry has to take the responsibility. See, I'm giving you an example. Yesterday, one of my PhD scholars, he was discussing with me his PhD topic. So I was telling him that go and talk to some industry who will fund your research. But in India, we don't have any such concept where the industry is funding the research for the education institutions. So this bridge has to be kept. The industry has to come and then support some of the initiatives by the academic institutions wherein we do the research which is applicable in the industry. And at the same time, the exposure is very important. When I say exposure, see, I think universities have some amount of autonomy with them. As what we do and what we have initiated in our campus, that the students must visit the industry, they must meet some of the industry leaders, they must have an interaction, they must know about the industry. Because it is impossible to actually have them inside four walls in the classroom and then at the 2 years tell them that go and find a job in some A category industry. That is not possible. That's never going to happen. And then the other important thing is that I must compliment the central government that in the new education policy, at least, they are talking about skills. So now it will, and then there is another issue that why the industry is hiring from some of the institutes and why they are not finding the same talent from other institutes, because we were not having a regulatory body which has to ensure that there is a parity in the, at least in the syllabi that is being taught to the students across the country. No, with new education policy 2020, we have higher education commission that will ensure that with in every institute, in every university, there is a parity at least at the level of syllabi that we are going to teach. And the next very important thing that I will say, that the education institutions, the universities have to take this call, because we are the one who are producing and who will be producing the manpower for the industry. We have to change our mindset. We have to look for new things that are happening around the globe. So we just cannot tell our students that you have to pass with high grades. Gone were the days when the grades were the sole criteria for getting the job. And for that, I must be wrong. My senior professor is with me. The teachers must have the industry exposure. I just cannot tell my student, go and visit the industry for 2 or 3 months to get the exposure. As a teacher, I must work with the industry. That sort of mechanism has to be framed, where the teachers from the university and the institutions have to spend some time in the industry, and the people from the industry will have to come to the campuses for teaching. So this sort of arrangement is very, very important. Unless and until there is no academia and the industry, I don't think that we will be in a position, because the data is something very scary. Out of, I think only 47% of our graduates are employable. So data is very scary. And we need to change our mindset. We need to change our scheme of things if we really want to. Thank you.
Yeah, I completely agree. In fact, when you said about the industry not being very supportive, it is not just economic support. I only when I was talking to, the whole lot of you one by one and sometimes together, I realized that as an industry, when I am not ready to take responsibility for a single intern who comes to my office, I just leave him or her with my junior employees and say, kuch kaam de do, kuch karwa lo. And I am personally not investing in that person, then how can I turn around and, sort of blame the
industry has to invest in the educational institutions. Industry has to
whether it is effort or money or interest,
it can be in any form. It can be
in any form. I completely agree with that. And so it's good. I mean, even if it's unfortunate what we are talking, it is good to at least bring it to the force, because at least it makes us think and it makes us reflect, and maybe something good will come out of this. Maybe some effort will come out of a few like-minded individuals. So we'll keep this discussion up. And, we have one of our younger colleagues with us, Alicia, who is from a global MNC. She works in Bombay. She's just passed out last year. And I thought it was very pertinent for us to also take a viewpoint from somebody who came with supposed stars in their eyes and comes to the industry. So Alicia, what I want to ask you is that you've come into the industry, you obviously thought of something and entered the tourism industry. You've studied, you wanted to come into the tourism industry for a certain reason. People become engineers, doctors, whatever. What is it that you wanted to achieve out of this industry? And when you were studying or when you were entering, what is it, the idea that you had, and are we delivering?
Okay, so first of all, thank you so much for having me here. And that's a wonderful question. Before, understanding all the problems and getting solutions to them, I think we should start off where the young India is now having a change in perception. So till I know a few industry seniors, and most of them had it in their minds that they joined the industry because they wanted to travel, because they wanted to set their mark in the market, etc. But younger India comes with different expectations. So when I thought of taking up the course, I did not really have that thought in my mind that the job must make me travel, or I should get at least one opportunity every year to visit a country, whether it is, traveling with a MICE group or going on a familiarization trip. I did not have very high expectations. I had simple aims, that was to enlargen my knowledge, because my knowledge with travel was very less. Being from a family who did not prioritize vacations, etc., I was very inquisitive. I wanted to do something different, and this was what came up to me, and I said, let me go for it. So, taking up the course, the first thing the educational counselors tell us is, if you want to join the travel industry and you want to travel, this is the wrong industry. Please select something else. That is the very first thing I remember when I went for the counseling session that they do. They give an explanation about the course and everything. So there is more focus saying that you will not get to travel initially. You have to work very hard. There will be long working hours. So it was made very clear. So I made it a point to be a realist and not keep very high expectations. But on the other hand, I also knew I had to fuel this passion of mine. So I was completely okay with just simply hearing stories from my seniors or colleagues who had actually traveled and come, or helping a customer with their travel. I knew in the end it's a cycle. I will get to learn from it, and later on I can fuel my own funds and make my travel dreams happen. And towards midway of the course, I started realizing this is so much of information to process. There is ages of history of how things were managed in the past, what we have learned, what are we doing now. There are few things which are not even disclosed when we are studying, because obviously they need to keep a few things confidential, and that is later on. Then when we join the agencies, we get trained about that. But when I joined, it was a very minimalistic expectation that we kept. We did not have a lot in our minds that we want to earn a lot of money or huge incentives, etc. But when the younger generation is joining in right now, we have just one expectation, that we should, the zeal that is there in us about travel, we want to learn, we want to quench that thirst, that should continue. So whenever we feel like the organization is being a hurdle, is not allowing us to grow, they're saying, okay, maybe you're a trainee, you're a junior, I think you should step out of this meeting, this is you might not understand stuff, it feels like we're not included in the organization. And it's kind of you take a back step from that passion, that zeal that you had come in with. So from where I started and where I've come to now, thankfully I was in a good organization that fueled my spirits. But I have seen my colleagues, my peers who did the course along with me have changed industries altogether, or went back to the industry they had left and they had come. So the scenes have changed drastically from where I started and where I have reached now.
Thank you, Alisha. I think those are very pertinent points. One more time, again, there is a second step of responsibility that I begin to feel, especially for people who've studied and come into this. Sanjeev is here. He's actually from the hospitality industry with a very, very long experience. And I know we are discussing tourism, but these days the line between hospitality and tourism is so thin because there is a huge crossover that is happening. Just yesterday, I was discussing with a journalist how there is this whole new slew of roles that are being, adapted by the hospitality industry. So, Sanjeev, you also, when you were running the hotels, especially with a heritage brand like the Welcome Heritage, there must have been people who you would have employed from the tourism sector. There are all sorts of allied services. Do you feel confident, or did you feel confident about the kind of talent that comes out? For example, like how Alisha says, do you feel confident to employ a junior, or would you think, no, I will get my own people and I will just train them the way it is? How would a background of a student coming from a tourism college versus a smart kid from any other stream, would you differentiate? Does the tourism studies add any value to you?
I think, first of all, thanks for letting me on this panel. And it's whatever short I have been here, I think listen to various comments of Vineet, Sheba, Danish, and now Alisha. It is something which comes out very clearly, is that there's a difference of opinions and realistic difference between the academia and the industry. Well, that exactly is there. Today, before I answer your question, I'll just add a couple of points here. You see, specifically to the hospitality industry. Now, there are so many colleges which do a 2-year or 3-year diploma or a degree course. And the expectation of the student which comes out is that the moment he comes out, he becomes a manager. Is there input from the academia or the industry also? Firstly, from the academia, that look, this is a 3-year is a basic course. You cannot become a general manager or a manager of a hotel after 3 years of course. It doesn't happen. The hospitality industry and the travel industry requires lot of hard work, burning midnight oil. I don't want to go to the past because things are changing now, but it's a very, very, hard industry, intensive industry. you are working on a festival and when all other friends and family are celebrating. So these are some small things. So that is one. I feel there is a major shortcoming in the bottom of the pyramid. You see, the top of the pyramid is very well placed. It's the bottom of the pyramid which is becoming a concern. A 3-year-old student who comes out of a college, he feels that he's fit to become a manager. The management company or wherever he is working for obviously has his own, they have their own vision. It's not that the people don't rise extraordinarily, but there's a process, there's a path which is laid down. Coming to the question of whether, whom would I prefer? I think one of the, I think Vineet mentioned is the attitude, willingness to learn. I think the moment you are able to identify a resource who's got an attitude to learn, attitude to do whatever he wants to do, I think you will hire the same kind. Hospitality is nothing which is rocket science. It is simply common sense. You really don't need skills unless you're in the kitchen. The kitchen has become too much of standardization now. But otherwise, it's all common sense. You don't teach a student how to, or anybody else, how to handle a customer complaint because there's no set rule. Each complaint is different. Each feedback is totally different. So I think at the end of the day, yes, what is required is major interaction between the academia and the industry. With the industry setting up its own hotel colleges, you see, the academia is slightly left out. You see, if you see the top 4 chains of the country, Oberoi's, ITC, Taj, Leela, they all have their own colleges, hotel colleges. So they rely on the manpower from there, again, at the middle management level. The academia, I think, has to make, well, if I'm from the industry, it doesn't mean that I'm saying that, but I think there has to be more effort from the academia to see how the industry can be involved. That is one. The syllabus, as somebody was saying, has not changed. I unfortunately have no in-depth into it, knowledge into it, so I'll not like to comment on that. But yes, I think not only in hospitality, what they teach you in colleges very rarely is applied in the practical life in any industry, be it hospitality, be it tourism, be it anybody else. So I think that has changed. That has to change. Today, the younger generation has become smart. You know, it's not like when I joined the industry 35 years back. You said you are a management trainee, you are a trainee, so you need to work 18 hours a day. This is what you will do. Today, you dare not tell a youngster that he has to work 18 hours a day. So the expectation, you see, of the industry also needs to change. Because if I have gone through that rigmarole, need not necessarily that I should push the youngster today. Till the time he's able to deliver what I wanted as a general manager of a hotel. Whenever I was a general manager of a hotel, I used to ensure that whatever training used to get, at least the HOD, besides the HR and the training manager, there's the HOD who gives at least 2 hours a week of theoretical and one-to-one session with each of the trainees.
That's important, yeah.
Because that is also a ground to pick up a resource for your future.
Correct.
Today, a guy has come on a 2nd year of internship. He passes out in 1 year. If the resource is good, I'm sure any manager would like to keep a tap on him that, okay, once you finish, you let me know.
Yeah.
So I think
in that, sorry, I'll let you complete.
Yeah. So I think that's how it should be run. There has to be a constant dialogue between, the intern, whether he's come from a catering college or whether he's come from another ordinary Delhi university, and the HOD or the company, that there has to be a constant dialogue to see how can, because today, you see, most of the industries are innovative. You have to be innovative. Yeah. When you're working in a job, some of the things become routine to you. Yeah. An outsider comes with so much of information today, with plethora of information on his palm, in his mobile, he can give great solutions. And I have personally had experiences where I've had fresh graduates and got some good solutions, got the thing. So I think it's when you're at a job, the head of the institution or the HOD has to also have an open mind to accept I cannot run a hotel like I used to do it earlier, 30 years ago.
Sure.
Things have changed, times have changed, customer has changed, the employee has changed.
Sure. And I think a lot of it, again, another point that occurred to me while you were saying, about HODs teaching those kids and taking classes. I think that's another thing that we all lack in the tourism industry, because not all of us are as lucky as being a large company like Sita, for example. And, usually the setups are 2 people, 5 people, a small company. And there is never any time to sort of give people a proper career path to say, okay, this is my training for you for this month. But Vineet, in bigger companies, do you people have like a proper program to say, okay, this person will receive this much training, or how much am I going to invest in this new person or a promising person? Does that happen? A very quick answer before I move to Prateek.
Yeah, Loveleen, quickly I'll address that. I mean, if I look at organization like us, we have a very structured program on 2 counts. One is who are we bringing on board as executive trainees. We run an executive training program. But I would like to just mention a little bit more here. We used to run a management training program. And we had set a qualifying criteria as postgraduates from tourism management institutes. We ran it for 3 years, or probably 4 years. And in the 4th year, it ran out of steam because the quality of people and the differentiation we were wanting to have from this level didn't happen. And then we downgraded it. We now call it executive training program. And we opened it for all graduates. So we largely go and hire from BTM or Bachelor's in Tourism Management. We of course let the postgraduates also come and apply if they wish to. And then even from the hotel management. Now let me just give you a figure here just to elaborate on the earlier point that was saying. We hire on an average 15 executive trainees across country. It's a very small number, but still a 15 executive training program, executive trainees come on board. 10% are from tourism institutes. 90% are from other institutes. So now to come to your question, yes. So once they come on board, we have a clearly defined 1.5 year training program for them. So when we hire them, as I mentioned earlier, we are only looking at their learning capabilities. How much can they skill themselves with us? And these 1.5 years, they are handheld by a mentor within the organization. They are allocated to different departments. They undergo mandatory training in just about every function, including finance. So starting from frontline, going to the airport, till the file handling, finance, back end of office operations, just about everything, including a branch operations. They are even stationed at one of our branches in Jaipur or Agra or somewhere. So it takes about 1.5 years for them to, where they are still called the executive trainee. And once they finish that course successfully, they are then, they join in as at the second level, not the entry level. So entry level for us is what we call as team associates. These people come in as team consultants. So they come at one level higher. And there is a minimum salary benchmark that we do. And then they have a further handholding for 1.5 years beyond that, where one of the general managers is made a mentor for them. And they have to do the mentoring for the next 1.5 years till they reach a team lead level. And thereafter, they are on their own to go for.
I think this mentorship thing, this mentorship link is a very important one in our industry, which is missing. In fact, in fact, I, out of my personal passion, I mentor a lot of girls in the industry. And that is because I realized that a lot of, how I mentioned, a lot of travel companies are small companies now, and more people specialize, they become smaller and smaller. So typically the size is 5 people, 6 people. And sometimes acquiring mentorship from their own direct bosses or their own small companies is very difficult. So it is better to have cross mentorship from, across the industry. And that is why I actually have a little ladies, women's group in Bangalore, and I mentor a lot of girls. And that is again out of passion, because I see so many of them being such fantastic workers, but they don't get that encouragement. And I think this should be an industry-wide program for people to just adopt 2 or 3 kids who they feel, can do better, and then just refer them, because you may not be able to give them jobs, but there are your friends who can give them jobs, etc.
Before you move on to the next question, just to highlight here, just like what you mentioned, this mentorship or guiding of students, Danish also brought up this point, has to start from industry, but right at the top. Most of us just leave it to downline, as we said, so kuch kaam de dena. But that's the attitude which has to change, and it has to change at the highest level, where if we are wanting good people to come into the industry, we have to handhold them.
Absolutely. I completely agree. I will come back to you, Sanjeev, after I finished with Prateek. The reason I want him to speak is that in the morning I was having a chat with him. And just like how Vineet mentioned some statistics, Prateek also has some statistics that he studied. And I would want him to mention that whilst focusing a little bit on one fact, Prateek ji, because your tours that you do and the work that you do has a hugely intellectual bend of mind. And when I was thinking about that, yesterday during my conversation with Shiba, we were discussing that the job of a college or a university is not simply to throw out a trained person for us. You know, that would be very small-minded as we see it. So her focus was that, listen, we are also educating an individual, you know, such that tomorrow y'all don't look after him, at least that person is educated enough to go and do something else. And that was a new viewpoint for me completely. I'd never thought of it like that. I thought the job of a tourism college is to make someone who can directly come and, you know, work in my office from day one. So keeping that in mind, and we were discussing that child or that person going ahead should be able to have a conversation with, let's say Vineet said, we put people in a branch office. Now, if I go and welcome two people from Germany, I should be able to talk to them, their history, and correlate it with my history. And for that boring subject, which we all think is a boring subject, has to be taught. So what are your opinion? Where and how can we bridge this gap? You know, like they have a valid point that they are educating children. We have a valid point that, listen, half of it is not practical. But end of the day, if students understand that, maybe we will get somewhere. But what do you think of this whole thing, and what are the statistics that you had studied, which were very interesting when you put them to me in the morning? So I would love to hear your views on that.
Thank you, Loveleen, first of all, for having me on this panel. So just to tell you, because my position is difficult, as I said, because I'm an academician, and I am a professional, and I'm a student as well. So I keep studying and doing different courses. So my recent was 2018 when I passed out a course on food and all those things. So I don't know which side to be on. But having said that, you know, education I've always felt is very, very important. And it gives you a base. And what did it do? I mean, I studied tourism 27 years ago. So the advantage that I had then was that there weren't so many teachers of tourism. So we had limited teachers of tourism who were the first ones in India to do their PhD in tourism, etc. But we were taught by industry experts. So when we were being taught airlines, we had someone from Air India coming and teaching us. When we were being taught railways, we had the divisional railway manager of Northern Railway or Northeastern Railway coming and teaching us their perspective. So this was the kind of education that was imparted to our batch. But of course, what happens is when these students come into universities or institutions, they may not have a focused mindset. And somewhere, somehow, our education system has been responsible for it, because in those times when we were studying, it used to be a postgraduate diploma in travel and tourism management, which was a 2-year program by IITTM or whatever. So it wasn't a fancy degree. And people knew less about it, and only focused people, you know, because I'm sure Vineet had a focus to get into tourism. He had a focus. So he wasn't aspiring to be a doctor or an engineer, or I wasn't aspiring to be a doctor or an engineer, to the extent that I was forced by my grandfather, who was serving the armed forces. He was a general in the armed forces, that you have to appear for the NDA. And I was so afraid of getting selected in the NDA that when I went to write the exam, I actually did not answer a single question, because I had that fear that kahin ho gaya, to ye to humko ghusa denge AC ke andar. And I wanted to do something else, you know. So that was the kind of focus which probably is missing. There's a lack of counseling probably when the students come and join, because ultimately, you know, the universities, I'm sorry to Shiba and Danish, who are two mainline educators and academicians on this panel, but universities are only trying to grab numbers. So they want, if they have 60 seats, they want to, because most of them are self-financed courses and they have to generate their own income. So they are unable to single out the students who are actually focused and who want to join tourism as a career, or just sort of a fun sake, or for whatever reason. So I did this small survey. I'll just give you the results of that survey. This was 2018-19. I was working on some research, and it was a small survey of only 800 students of tourism. So you'll be surprised to know that 43% were trying to do, trying for other courses, but as they could not get through, they joined tourism. So this is a very sort of shocking fact, 43% of students coming from aspiring for something else are landing up in tourism. There is also, I mean, it is a hugely debatable point that there were universities who, as a part of UGC sort of thing, they introduced a tiered MBA. So they named the degree as MBA, and they had put 2 or 3 in their management program. There was finance, there was general management, there was some agriculture, and there was tourism. And tourism in many universities was kept at the last, at the end, which means that if you scored from 90 to 100%, you got into an MBA X. But if you were lowest, you were given tourism. So people would think, oh, MBA to mil jayega na, so let's just join tourism. So there, all these problems started. 22% said because their friends, relatives, or parents asked them to join it, that's why they have joined. 18% came out saying that studying, they are those studying tourism, but preparing for something else, like banking or some other kind of exam. 2% had no answers, because this was a verbal kind of a thing that I was doing. I didn't want them to write and explain. So that gave me a figure of 15% actual students who were joining the institution. Now, when you say employment, etc., so it's not the matter of employment, but it is actually employability. So it's not that we have dearth of employment. All of us are employed, and employed well. But the point is that there is dearth of employability, because we see a batch of 100 students, but then we need to realize that when the industry is going to the universities or the institutions, we only are targeting those 15 actual tourism students whom we can take. And probably all of us get that. I mean, our requirement is kind of fulfilled. So that's a very important point that I wanted to make through this survey. The other problem that is someone mentioned about the focus. I think Vineet said that you have inbound, you have outbound, you have domestic. There are so many domains. There are specializations, let me tell you. In many universities, they have specializations in the last semester. But do children know what these specializations are? Are they counseled? Because I've had students who wanted to join inbound, but they specialized in mice. Or they wanted to join, something else, and they specialized in cargo. Now, which means if you have specialized in cargo, you have done your training, and even the training is misplaced. So, because training is a part of their syllabus, they are marked on the training report. So, to get those, I mean, it's just a formality that they have to get a training. Somewhere industry is also responsible, because we are not encouraging trainings and, to that extent, of course. So when we are not encouraging, then people are specializing in cargo, coming to a company which is into inbound tours, and joining a company which is a cruise company, for example. So this is a 3-level mismatch of a student. So what do you expect from that student? So one, that the counseling should be very, very important. Synergies, synergizing things, the synergy between the industry and the academia is very important. The mentorship program is a brilliant, brilliant idea. And now, this is a good time for academia to connect with the industry, because almost all of us are free. We'll be free for another 1 year or so. So this 1 year, and all of us are empathetic. So we have learned empathy, and our sort of behavior is very different than what it used to be. So this is one part. The other part is that involving industry in framing of their syllabus, because each university does not have a common, they don't have a common syllabus. So it is rightly said that what we studied 20, but then we just need to have that base of a subject because we connect to the industry. How else would have I known after my economics and studies in university, etc.? How else would I know who's Inder Sharma, who's Ghulam Lakshman? I only, because when I studied about them, when I was taught by them, then only I probably connected. Oh, this is industry, this is Sita, this is TCI, this is some cruise company, this is Cox and Kings, Thomas Cook. These things were taught to us. That this was the first travel company, that was the Grand Tour, etc., etc. So that base is very important. So when we say that we can hire from any this thing, I think that's just being selfish, that we want our thing to run, so we can bring anybody from anywhere and hire anybody. I mean, I have a team of about 40 people across. And let me tell you, except for not the main line of things, leave aside accounts, etc., but the main operations is being handled by exclusively people who have graduated in tourism in whatever manner. They may have a certificate program or a diploma program or a master's degree or whatever. But that's how industry has to behave and be responsible as well. Industry has to come forward to frame syllabus and this thing. I have lectured at Danish's platform or at Shiva's platform, and the students, I tell you, are brilliant. They have brilliant questions. I mean, they are much more informed, much more intelligent than what we think they would be. So once you're interacting, it becomes really difficult. You fear that what kind of a question is about to come from them. So, and especially now, because we are living in an era of FOMO, where we sort of fear others more than what we are. So it becomes really difficult. So I think that this synergy, this is just the right time for universities to come along with the industry, and similarly, industry has a lot of time to do these preparations and come along with the universities to redo their programs. Now, people like the head of departments or the vice chancellors or the directors in the different institutions, they will have to have a kind of a dialogue, one-to-one dialogue. So they can take, for example, you being on the board of one of the universities in your area, or someone else in Delhi, or someone else in Bombay, and then take inputs, cues, and frame, because the syllabus accordingly, frame the study methods accordingly. I mean, our time, I tell you, we were given a field visit was important, which means that we were taken to, we never saw an airport. I mean, when we were graduating, my father was working for railways, he never took us on a flight. I mean, it wasn't, so this thing. So we were taken to the airport to show the operations, how people, how they check in. I mean, things were different at that point in time as they are today. But when it was railway station, we were taken to the railway station. This is the station master, yahan se jhandi hoti hai, yahan se wo. That we knew everything, because we did these field visits. I remember going to the Cox and Kings office. I remember going to the TCI office. That was a part of the education system, which is now probably missing, because the education system is involving more subject education. One more point is that when we are confused that, like Shiva said, that this is a university system, and they are they are looking at more broader and more wider kind of thing than just preparing. We need to differentiate between a subject education and a vocational education.
Correct.
Now, if we do that, we'll treat the subject in the correct way. For example, tourism. If you are treating a subject, tourism, as just a subject, as a research subject only, then probably don't cry that the industry is not hiring. it's fine. It's just like economics, it's just like English literature or something else. It makes sense. But then if you are treating it as a vocation, you have to differentiate between the vocational subject and the core, the general subject. So that's
Sure.
my view on that. Thank you.
Those are very, very valid and very important views. In fact, while you were talking, I was having some ideas. And the reason, Mr. Venkatesan, that I'm coming to you a little bit later in the discussion is that I wanted all the views to be put forth and then see what role can the government play in, bringing us all together. So while Prateekji was speaking, I was thinking about the fact that, people like Vineet, people like me, people like Sanjeev, we all may have a certain passion at a certain time to say, oh, I want to contribute and I want to bring up people. And that I may also do, like he said, right now we are, empathetic and unemployed and all. Tomorrow business picks up, I have to make up for the last 1 year. And my first priority will be business. So what I was thinking was that can the government come up with some kind of programs where industry people can contribute time, effort, and they are given not just recognition, but some kind of, I wouldn't call it, I mean, they don't need stipends, but they need, someone to compensate them for a little bit of their time and have those people, collaborate with the academicians on the syllabus, or make sure that a certain number of their hours, whatever is possible, that they, how we did the Teach India kind of a program or something like that. Have you ever tried something like this? Or what is the government initiatives where you've brought the industry and academia together? What part can the government play in this? You're on mute right now. You'll have to unmute yourself.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's quite interesting. I've been kind of listening to all the panelists have their own views about the tourism education and its applicability. In fact, I am looking from an outside, from a government side, where directly not with the academia or the industry. We are also kind of responsible. The government of India was the initial one which came up with the structure of tourism education in terms of the IHMs and the IIT camps, which came in long back when there were not so many tourism institutes. And secondly, if you look at even now, the tourism is not a separate department in many universities and colleges. It's part of history, or it's part of commerce, it's part of geography, etc., where the students are taught there. And given that we are kind of looking at, we understand there's a requirement of the industry, and we have to kind of exploit the demographic dividend also, which is now there for us, and for which skill development is going to be the focus. The students have to be kind of given skills while studying, so that when they come out, at least they are ready to be observed and they're not lost. And here I have another point, where the government is also looking to create a massive awareness of making career in travel, hospitality, and tourism aspirational. Today, it is not aspirational. Many of them take it out of not out of choice, just out of last option or something. So massive awareness will have to be created about careers in travel and hospitality, so that we get people who are really passionate and focused. And for which, when you say about how the industry stalwarts can help, we need role models and champions to be promoted to make the make it aspirational for the students. Today, for me, all like Indra Sharma's and Lakshman, that the names that came up were the ones when I joined, who were the doyens of the industry. I did not formally have any education, tourism education. All I learned was being in the ground. So we need to have role models, or the champions. So this industry has to kind of focus. We have the great stalwarts who have done great jobs for the industry, and they have come up on their own. So they need to be projected. So maybe the IATOs and Thais, etc., who have such distinguished persons in their body can kind of bring out, and so that the youngsters can look up and see how they can follow. So this is something which is something there. And also I'll come up very specifically to the hospitality side, where the ministry has given instructions to all the hotel management institutes to be in close touch with the industry. When I say close touch, the faculty members go to the industry to understand the changes that are happening in the industries, and also what are the behavioral changes, etc., so that they can come back and bring it to the classes. This has become kind of a compulsory for them to do it periodically. And also there are meetings with GMs which are quite often organized, and many of the hotel institutes are privileged that many of their own alumni are on the top positions, and there is a passion for the alumni to come. So they also kind of act like a role model when they come and talk to the youth and youngsters. So that is something which the government has done. And also the expectations from the industrial trainees, that is something which we need to know, because they should not be, as it has been told earlier also, not only in the tourism industry and hospitality, they should not be treated as like daily wages, agya and say kam lelo whatever, etc., and then push them out, for which again the government has made it mandatory for the faculty counselor. At least I know in the IHM Mumbai, where there are faculty counselors who visit the students while they are on internship to understand if they are really getting the right mentorship or training, or what are the new technologies they are learning, etc., the new methodologies, kind of stuff. These are some things which government is trying to keep in as a system. And also we need some kind of synergy also with the other ministries, like the synergy with the Ministry of Skill, National Skill Development Corporation, and there is also this Hospitality Sector Skill Council. So if the industry, or not only industry, but the universities and education institutions can kind of collaborate with them, so that capacity building can be a continuous process. And again, when you said what roles can the seniors and those who are already in the industry can have, maybe we can look at some training the trainers, which is something very important, because of course in big cities and other towns we have talent of teachers, etc. But when we go to remote areas, we hardly have any trained teachers or anybody who can deal. And tourism has become so diverse. Every experience has become a tourism experiences. So if we need to kind of continuously upscale ourselves, otherwise we become irrelevant. So this is where the industry stalwarts can kind of help come forward and at least do something on the training the trainers, especially in the remote and rural areas. And one more important thing which the government is looking at is destination-based skilling programs. Because every destination has its own specialty requirements, etc. So in order to develop the tourist destination in a holistic manner, short-term skilling programs are kind of coming up, so that to bridge the gap between providing skilled and employable manpower. So these are some of the things we are looking at. And of course, the inputs from the industry is kind of very, very, very important, going forward to shape. And when it comes to tourism education from the government side, it's the National Council which takes care of the hospitality industry. And of course, the IITTMs are there. At least in the IITTM, there is a common curriculum across the 5 chapters, etc. But then there is a continuous need for interaction and exchange. And I also agree of what you said about privately mentoring. In fact, I kind of do a lot of mentoring personally on a level with so many students, and I have a huge network of students across the country. So it really not only helps them, it also helps me, to kind of get. And you are very, as Mr. Pratik said, they're brilliant children and who have amazing creativity and think out of box. So ideas come from there. So continuous mentorship for all the seniors and who are established in the industry is quite important when it comes to. So my suggestion is, maybe let us focus on building role models for the students to emulate and make it aspirational, of tourism. It should not be just out of last choice, but they should aspire to become the tourism professionals. Yeah, this is my kind of point of view.
I'll pick up from where you said that they are very smart minds. In fact, in my office, I make it a point that every year I employ at least 2 millennials who keep me on my toes. You know, they keep finding faults with my social media or, you know, something, or the way I'm making an itinerary, and they say, you know, they say the choices of words, and they don't hold their thoughts, and they are not polite. They're not worried about that. But I find initially it was very difficult to accept it, but I think they just keep you on your toes very well. So the last section, I just want to make it, you know, so far we've discussed what was and how it used to be and what we can do. Of course, there's a whole lot of problem solving to be done with all the things that we've discussed. But the last section, I just wanted to be extremely useful for the students who are watching this, because I want to give them hope, and I want them to know that we are not in some kind of a dead, old industry in the ruins. We are also a futuristic, modern, and a thriving industry. After all, we all contribute to 10% of GDP. It is high time we started taking extreme pride in what we all do and how much we contribute. Whether it is outbound, whether it is inbound, the outbound industry has not found its due in any of the policies, in any of the focus areas, whether it's academia, whether it's the government policies, whether it is, you know, that's a separate peeve of mine, which we will go into another time. But there's a lot that can be done in that sector as well. What is happening now with the industry is that there's a huge lot of new roles that are being formed, which are more technology oriented, which are more futuristic in the way children can approach it. This is more their comfort zones, so to say. They're constantly with their mobiles. They are there, you know, they find their counterparts in other verticals learning the latest cutting technology. You know, somebody is doing AR and somebody is doing virtual reality, and they feel, you know, what am I studying ruins for, or something like that. So here is where I want to come to you, Ramkumar. You've been working with a lot of technology as far as the MICE sector is concerned. I just want you to elaborate on how the children who are now in the tourism sector, they shouldn't feel that they are stuck in some kind of an ancient industry, and how this is also a very futuristic, thriving industry. What would you say to encourage them, and how would you see it in the next, you know, I'm just assuming that we are all going to sail through this COVID thing one way or the other. And on the other side, what is your message for them?
Yeah, thanks first of all for having me, and it's a good discussion that we had, and it's high time that we have these kind of discussions because what I have seen, just taking off a little bit from what has been said till now, what I've seen is that we as an industry don't value professionalism in those who come in, the new people. We've all been there, done that, and but we don't let the others be there and do that before coming to our position. Anyways, having said that, looking into the future, looking what we have, we've been going through a paradigm shift, and being in Singapore, I've seen these things changing so fast. I don't know how it's happening in India, but of course things are happening the same way. But we've had a lot of technology that's come in. That's a lot of new things that we were talking about over the last maybe 1, 2, 3 years, especially in the MICE sector, especially in the hospitality sectors. If I mean, all of you are there, you may relate to this, but there must have been many people approaching you with these technology, facial recognition software, RFID, wayfinding, apps, which really are customizable. And we have all said, let's wait. This is too early for this. I mean, we all have said that. But that's what it is now. Over the last 6, 7, 8 months, things like wearables, your event diagramming. Now, Amazon has come up with virtual tours where you don't actually have to go, you don't have to do site visits. You don't have to, I mean, I am not even thinking of that, talking about that nightmare of ours when tourists actually do virtual tours. No, please. But about the business part, when you really don't have to go to site visits. You don't have to, you have event diagramming where Cvent has come out with the social tables where you can actually place your meeting design, and it's come in real time. So these are technologies that are coming up, and those that they were already there. It's not that they have come up now. They were already there, and they have now come into focus, and they are here to stay. I mean, that's a reality. How much ever we are talking about not virtual in the next 2 years, but there will be some element of virtual in our all interactions, be it hotels, be it tour operations, be it MICE to a great extent. So what I would like to tell the students, and especially the teachers, those who are formulating their academic syllabus, that we have to take these roles into account. These are now things that have to come into the students. They need, and as you said, Lavleen, we have the new students, the Gen Z as they are called. They have exposure to all these. And I know of many tourism students who have come from engineering backgrounds, who know the tech. So
I'm an engineer too.
Yeah, so that's a kind of, so the passion is where it's coming from. So the right marriage of technology and the passion of tourism, because whatever all these screens, whatever we know, we are a people industry. We have to have this touch and feel, otherwise it will not. So it's going to be there. But there are roles, even production. You have hospitality service. You have check-ins where you don't require any interaction, human interaction. But that's at one level. But then you need to work out how to bring on the human interaction. So that's another role. Then you have the virtual 3D imaging. That's a creative role. Now we just attended the first hybrid event in Marina Bay Sands in Singapore with the new guidelines, wherein we had speakers from UK, and we had the keynote speaker from San Francisco, all on hologram projections at the studio in Marina Bay Sands, and with just 20 people in attendance. So there's a creative aspect to it, where you need to bring in all these technology, but tech has also to be creative. So that's where I think the tourism education, yes, getting knowing your monuments, knowing your history will come in that where you can bring the creativity of your tourism education and marry that with the tech, which is going to be the future. So that's what I would suggest to the academicians, to the heads of institutions who are here and who will be listening, that they should now look into these aspects as well.
Yeah. So maybe, thank you for your views. So yeah, basically, this is where we wanted to leave the students with a little bit of an idea of the future. There is a whole lot of things to look forward to our industry, because it is changing so fast. You know, earlier the things that used to change once in 15 years or once in 10 years, then that change level came down to 3 years. And now in 2 years, we are not able to recognize what we were doing 2 years back. So of course, the academia has to sort of keep up with it. The students have to keep up with it. You have to put there is always a resistance from people our age looking downwards to say, you don't tell me my business, I know how to run it. But a lot of people, a lot of us, as our kids are growing up, they are telling us that we need to change as well. So, and the whole world as such, and like Prateek said, we are all becoming a little bit more empathetic to a lot of new ideas, which we never had time to sort of stop and think or ruminate on. All those things are now becoming important to us. You've heard a lot from all the panelists. I have not heard one negative thing. I have not heard, we've come up with a lot of challenges. We've come up with the fact that maybe, the fact that all of us have the time to sit and talk for so long, this itself, I think, is a huge positive shift from otherwise to get the 9 or 10 of us on one platform for an hour or two was impossible last year. And I think something good will come out of this. I'm sure my panelists will join me in sending a very positive message to all the students who are in the tourism. For whatever reason you've joined, for whatever reason you've chosen this, your vertical, don't be disheartened just because the industry is going through a tough time. I know I'm in touch with a lot of my colleagues. We've all got our heads in the right place to reinvent right now. A lot of people are not talking about it because they are themselves either apprehensive or keeping their cards close to their chest. But we have a huge amount of creative people in this industry. We have a huge amount of resilient people in this industry. They are here. They will look after you. They will look after your careers. The only thing I think our generation we had those questions also in mind to put it up, about how we feel the millennials are fickle-minded and they may just leave the industry and they don't have the commitment levels to go through it. Like Sanjeev was saying, we used to work 18 hours. I have worked in hotels 18 hours, and we all like to talk about that. But the fact is that I think also we didn't have so many choices, frankly. You all have choices, and that you are moving because you have another choice and it's easily available. It wasn't available to us, so there is no bravery in what we did either. But having said that, it is a very positive time. A lot of good is going to come up with it. Tourism is going to change for a whole lot better. People are going to travel for better reasons. People are going to travel with deeper meanings. There are a whole lot of roles which are getting created because of new content creations. The internet is giving us opportunities. People like Prateek ji have led, a whole generation of us to think differently on how tours can be done. Ram Kumar has told you about the entire role that technology can play, not just in MICE, but in a huge lot of other things. So there is a lot of positivity, and I'm sure, I think, from what I can make out of my panelists, I think we are all going to be in touch for sure and see what we can do to bring something positive out of our discussions. Maybe make a little think tank to see how we can all work together, how we can bring this discussion to some kind of fruitful usage. So I want to take a moment and say thank you to all of you. I mean, I don't know if even one of you was not on this panel, how this thing could have been completed. So I really thank you from the bottom of my heart on behalf of TSF, the festival, and for the New Tourism Foundation. And thank you so much to the foundation for bringing us all together on this platform. And thank you to each one of you for giving so much time to this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Loveleen. I may like to add here today is that the youngsters should be focused. There is a lot of opportunities available, and no doubt the times are low, but this is the time to enhance your own skills. You have extra time to enhance your own skills. Go out to the market tomorrow with much better skills than your counterpart. I think the advantage is there that with you. And it's definitely when you are at the lowest step, the graph has to go up. It has to go up.
Definitely, it will grow up. So thank you one more time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thankful to all our eminent panelists for their insightful and thoughtful addresses, and also to the viewers of this session. I'm sure that the takeaways of the session will enthuse confidence among students and young professionals during the current testing times towards the new normal. We have a surprise for you all attendees. Scan the QR code on your screens with your mobile phones and answer 10 questions in 10 minutes. You will get to win prizes and surprise gifts. And I shall see you in the next session.